On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected. O.J. Simpson, a former NFL superstar turned actor, died of natural causes on April 10, 2024, at age 76, succumbing to cancer in Las Vegas. His death marked the quiet end to a life that had once been a public spectacle, reflecting an era obsessed with celebrity, racial tension, and the limits of justice. In the 1990s, Simpson's trial for the murders of his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman gripped America, exposing deep societal divides. His acquittal in 1995, despite overwhelming evidence, underscored distrust in institutions like the police, especially among black communities scarred by events like the Rodney King beating. Yet, his later conviction for armed robbery in 2008 showed how fame couldn't shield him from accountability forever. Simpson's passing stirred immediate reactions that mirrored his polarizing life. Social media buzzed with tributes to his athletic prowess, rushing over 2,000 yards in a single season, juxtaposed against reminders of his violent past. No grand political intrigue framed his final moments, just a private battle with illness, a stark contrast to the televised Bronco chase that once drew 95 million viewers. His death didn't ignite riots or reshape laws, but it reignited debates about justice and privilege, with some mourning a sports icon and others decrying an unpunished killer. The Goldman family, still seeking closure after a 1997 civil judgment, noted the end of their pursuit for accountability, though their grief lingered. Did his death amplify his legend? Not quite. It reframed it. Simpson's story, already cemented by the trial of the century, shifted from a tale of triumph to a cautionary saga of hubris and downfall. His era valued fame as a shield, yet his life revealed its fragility. History might not pivot on his passing, but it echoes the challenges of reconciling talent with transgression. Dixie Carter, cherished for her role as Julia Sugarbaker on Designing Women, died of natural causes on April 10, 2010, at age 70 in Houston, succumbing to complications from endometrial cancer. Her peaceful passing reflected an era that celebrated strong female voices while wrestling with the personal costs of public life. The late 2000s prized authenticity and resilience, qualities Carter embodied through Julia's sharp-witted defiance of sexism and injustice. Yet, her private battle with illness highlighted the fragility beneath the fame, a stark contrast to the political machinations of Cleopatra's 30 BCE suicide or the public pyre of Joan of Arc's 1431 execution. The immediate consequences of Carter's death were felt in waves of tributes from fans and peers. Designing Women reruns spiked on networks like Lifetime, with viewers revisiting Julia's iconic monologues, blends of humor and moral clarity that defined Carter's legacy. Colleagues like Annie Potts and Delta Burke mourned publicly, while theater circles honored her Broadway turns, such as her portrayal of Maria Callas in Master Class. Unlike Lincoln's 1865 assassination, which sent a fractured nation reeling, Carter's death didn't shift history's trajectory. Instead, it amplified her legend, transforming her into a timeless emblem of Southern strength and grace. Social media and fan forums buzzed with praise, ensuring her influence lingered beyond the screen. Carter's quiet exit mirrored her era's tension between public adoration and private struggle, much as Lincoln's murder reflected a nation's desperate search for unity post-Civil War. Her death didn't ignite upheaval like Joan's martyrdom, which galvanized French resistance, but it deepened appreciation for her work. The lack of spectacle, unlike Cleopatra's asp-bitten defiance of Rome, underscored a modern value: dignity in vulnerability. Her passing invited reflection on how talent endures even when the body fails. History didn't pivot, but Carter's legacy as a cultural touchstone grew, her performances a bridge between entertainment and empowerment. Emiliano Zapata, a revolutionary leader of Mexico's peasant uprising, met a violent end on April 10, 1919, at age 39, ambushed in Chinameca, Morelos. His death by betrayal, lured into a trap by Colonel Jesus Guajardo under orders from Venustiano Carranza, mirrored the era's brutal power struggles and the deep mistrust of centralized authority. The Mexican Revolution was a chaotic fight for land and liberty, values Zapata championed with his cry of Tierra y Libertad, land and freedom. His assassination reflected the challenges of an agrarian society resisting elite exploitation, where loyalty was fragile and ideals often clashed with treachery. Zapata's final moments were steeped in intrigue. Guajardo, feigning defection, invited Zapata to meet under the guise of alliance. As Zapata entered the hacienda, a bugle sounded, and soldiers riddled him with bullets. Over 20 struck his body. The immediate fallout was seismic. Peasant followers mourned their caudillo del sur, sparking outrage and renewed resistance. Carranza's regime aimed to crush Zapata's movement, but his death backfired. Photographs of his corpse, displayed publicly to prove his demise, only fueled his mystique, much like Joan of Arc's execution in 1431, turned her into a martyr. Unlike Lincoln's 1865 murder, which stunned a healing America, Zapata's killing didn't halt the revolution. It galvanized it, though his dream of land reform remained unfulfilled until later decades. Did his death amplify his legend? Unequivocally. Zapata transcended mortality, becoming a symbol of defiance against oppression. The Zapatistas persisted, and his ideals influenced Mexico's 1917 Constitution, notably Article 27 on land redistribution. Zapata's death exposes humanity's tangled bond with mortality, power, and memory. It shows how the powerless wield influence through sacrifice, while the powerful cling to control through violence. We immortalize such figures in corridos, ballads sung by campesinos, and murals like Diego Rivera's, where Zapata looms as a stoic revolutionary. Literature, from John Steinbeck's Viva Zapata to oral tales, keeps his spirit alive. These acts of commemoration reveal our need to honor those who die for justice, turning their mortal ends into enduring calls for equity. Zapata's blood-soaked legacy lingers, a testament to humanity's relentless pursuit of dignity amid chaos. Sam Kinison, the brash, screaming comedian and former Pentecostal preacher, met a violent end on April 10, 1992, at age 38, when his Pontiac Trans Am collided head-on with a pickup truck driven by a 17-year-old on U.S. Highway 95 near Needles, California. The crash, caused by the teen's reckless attempt to pass another vehicle while reportedly under the influence, reflected the era's struggles with substance abuse and the excesses of the late 80s and early 90s entertainment culture. Kinison, newly married and sober after years of battling addiction, was en route to a sold-out show in Laughlin, Nevada, embodying a personal redemption arc cut short by irony. A wild man felled not by his own vices, but by another's carelessness. The immediate aftermath saw the teen charged with vehicular manslaughter, receiving probation and community service, while Kinison's wife, Malika, survived with injuries. His death stunned the comedy world, with peers like Rodney Dangerfield and Richard Belzer mourning the loss of a trailblazer whose raw, confrontational style had redefined stand-up. Rather than fading, Kinison's legend grew, amplified by tales of his final moments, pleading, "I don't want to die," then calmly saying, "Okay, okay, okay," as if conversing with an unseen force. This haunting exchange, witnessed by friend Karl Labove, fueled speculation about spirituality, resonating with a generation grappling with mortality amid the AIDS crisis and cultural upheaval. Kinnison's death didn't shift history's trajectory, but cemented his status as a comedic icon, influencing figures like Joe Rogan. It revealed humanity's fascination with mortality, how we seek meaning in sudden loss, and our tendency to mythologize the fallen. His legacy endures in comedy specials, documentaries, and lore, a testament to our urge to immortalize those who burn brightly, however briefly. As scholar Robert Eaglestone notes in The Routledge Companion to Death in Literature, such narratives reflect our need to construct order from chaos. Kinnison's end, detailed in the New York Times, underscores our complex dance with power, rebellion, and remembrance, forever echoing in the laughter he left behind. Donna Michelle, born Donna Michelle Fick on December 8, 1945 in Los Angeles, met a quiet, natural end on April 10, 2004 at age 58, succumbing to a heart attack in Ukiah, California. A former Playboy Playmate of the Month and Playmate of the Year, her death reflected the era's complex interplay of glamour and vulnerability. The 1960s and 70s entertainment world, steeped in hedonism and fleeting fame, often left its stars grappling with identity and health beyond the spotlight. Michelle's transition from modeling and acting, appearing in films like Beach Blanket Bingo, to a reclusive later life as a photographer, mirrored the burnout many faced in an industry valuing youth over longevity. Her passing stirred little immediate fanfare, a stark contrast to her youthful celebrity. No major legal battles or public outcries followed. Instead, her death quietly closed a chapter for a figure who'd faded from prominence. The lack of spectacle didn't amplify her legend, but rather underscored the ephemeral nature of fame in her time. Unlike contemporaries whose dramatic exits fueled myth, Michelle's natural death at home, detailed in the Los Angeles Times, left her legacy tied to nostalgic pin-up images rather than a transformative historical shift. This muted end reveals humanity's uneasy dance with mortality and power. Michelle's era celebrated beauty as currency, yet her heart attack, a private, unglamorous fate, highlights how even icons are mortal, their power fleeting. We immortalize such figures through art and memory, preserving Donna Michelle in vintage magazines and film stills, a time capsule of 1960s allure. As scholar Susan Sontag notes in On Photography, 1977, images freeze moments, granting a kind of afterlife. Her story, though not history-altering, lingers in cultural ephemera, reflecting our tendency to romanticize the past while forgetting its human toll. Her death, devoid of intrigue or violence, speaks to a universal truth. Even the brightest stars dim, remembered more for their light than their fade. Little Eva, born Eva Narcissus Boyd, the singer behind the 1962 hit The Locomotion, died of natural causes, cervical cancer, on April 10, 2003, at age 59 in Kinston, North Carolina. Her passing reflected an era wrestling with the fragility of pop stardom and the quiet struggles of those who shaped it. The early 2000s saw a nostalgia for simpler times, yet Eva's death highlighted the challenges of an industry that often discarded its pioneers. Discovered as a babysitter for songwriters Carole King and Jerry Goffin, her brief fame in the 1960s embodied a youthful, dance-craze-driven optimism, but her later obscurity and illness spoke to a society grappling with the human cost of fleeting celebrity. Her final days unfolded far from the spotlight. Diagnosed with cancer in 2001, she spent her last months in a hospital bed, surrounded by family, her voice silenced after years of financial hardship and a failed comeback attempt. The immediate aftermath was understated. Local papers ran obituaries, and fans shared tributes online, but no grand memorials marked her exit. Her death didn't jolt the world like a political assassination or a public execution. It was a private loss, amplifying the contrast between her vibrant 1962 chart topper and her later struggles. The music world paused briefly, with artists like Kylie Minogue, who revived the Locomotion in 1988, nodding to her legacy. But history's trajectory remained unchanged. Did her death amplify her legend? Modestly, it reframed it. Little Eva became a symbol of the one-hit wonder, her story a bittersweet reminder of pop's ephemeral nature. Her passing didn't spark revolutions or shift cultural tides, but it deepened appreciation for her contribution to a dance floor era, cementing her as a footnote of resilience amid neglect. Little Eva's quiet end reveals humanity's tangled bond with mortality and power. It shows how we elevate voices only to let them fade, and how memory clings to what time erases. We immortalize her through art. Her song endures in covers, jukeboxes, and film soundtracks like The Big Chill. Literature and oral histories keep her tale alive, a humble echo of a girl who danced into fame and slipped away. Her death underscores our need to honor the fleeting, to find meaning in the mortal hush, preserving her not as a titan, but as a spark that briefly lit the world. Larry Linville, best known as the pompous Major Frank Burns on MASH, died of natural causes on April 10, 2000, at age 60 in New York City, from pneumonia following complications of lung cancer surgery. His passing reflected an era grappling with the health consequences of smoking, a widespread habit in the mid-20th century, and the limits of medical advancements, as even a routine procedure couldn't save him. The late 1990s and early 2000s also saw a cultural shift, with television stars like Linville, who thrived in ensemble casts, often overshadowed by the industry's pivot to reality TV and blockbuster films, highlighting the fleeting nature of fame. Linville's death was a quiet affair, far from the spotlight he once commanded. After surgery in 1998 to remove a malignant tumor, he faced ongoing health struggles, passing away at Sloan Kettering Cancer Center with his wife Deborah by his side. The immediate aftermath saw heartfelt tributes from MASH co-stars like Alan Alda, and fans who cherished his portrayal of the comically inept surgeon. Unlike a dramatic historical assassination that might galvanize a nation, his death didn't spark widespread upheaval. Obituaries ran in major papers, but the public's focus quickly shifted. His departure prompted no seismic cultural shift, only a nostalgic nod to a show that had defined 1970s television. Did his death amplify his legend? Not significantly, it anchored it. Linville's Frank Burns, a foil to the irreverent Hawkeye, remained a beloved caricature of military rigidity, but his passing didn't elevate him beyond his established niche. It didn't alter history's course, merely marking the loss of a talented character actor whose work resonated in syndication. Linville's end reveals humanity's complex dance with mortality and power. It underscores how even those who shape culture can fade quietly, their influence tied to moments rather than monuments. We immortalize figures like him through art. His face flickers in MASH reruns, streaming on platforms like Hulu, and in fan conventions where his role is celebrated. Tributes in memoirs by co-stars and online forums keep his memory alive, reflecting our need to preserve the ephemeral. His death, unassuming yet poignant, reminds us that legacy often lies in the laughter we leave behind, etched not in stone, but in the stories we retell. Kirsten Rolfes, a cherished Danish actress known for The Kingdom and Matador, died of natural causes on April 10, 2000, at age 71 in Copenhagen, succumbing to a prolonged illness, likely cancer, though details remain private. Her quiet passing reflected an era balancing artistic reverence with the stark reality of human fragility. In the late 20th century, Denmark prized its cultural figures as emblems of national identity, and Rolfs, whose career spanned theater, television, and voice work, embodied this value. Yet her death, away from the limelight, mirrored the universal challenge of mortality overtaking even the most celebrated lives. Her final days unfolded in a hospital, far from the National Theatre's stage where she'd captivated audiences for decades. Surrounded by family, not fans, her end was intimate, a stark shift from her public persona. The immediate aftermath brought tributes from Denmark's arts scene. Colleagues like Gita Nørby praised her warmth, while newspapers mourned a national gem. Her passing didn't jolt the country's course or ignite upheaval. It was a cultural ripple, poignant but contained. Her voice as Ursula in Disney's The Little Mermaid dubbing lingered in public memory, a bridge to younger audiences, though no grand events marked her departure. Rolfs's death reveals humanity's complex dance with mortality and power, how we elevate voices only to confront their silence. We immortalize such figures through art. Her performances endure in Matador reruns, The Kingdom's eerie corridors, and theater anecdotes, a quiet testament to her craft. Her legacy lives in Denmark's cultural fabric, not in towering statues but in the stories and characters she shaped, reflecting our urge to hold on to the fleeting through memory's gentle grasp. Jean Vander Pyle, the iconic voice of Wilma Flintstone in The Flintstones, died of natural causes, lung cancer, on April 10, 1999, at age 79 in Dana Point, California. Her death reflected an era confronting the long-term health effects of smoking, prevalent in mid-20th century Hollywood, and the shifting sands of entertainment, where voice actors like her, vital to animation's golden age, often faded from prominence as live-action TV surged. A radio star in the 1950s before voicing Hanna-Barbera's prehistoric matriarch, her passing marked the end of an original Flintstones cast member, underscoring the fragility of fame in a rapidly evolving industry. Her final moments were private, a stark contrast to her decades of bringing boisterous characters to life. Battling cancer, she died at home, surrounded by family, not the sound stages where she voiced Rosie the Robot in The Jetsons or Pebbles Flintstone. The immediate aftermath saw tributes from animation fans and peers. Hanna-Barbera lauded her versatility, while obituaries recalled her $250 per episode Flintstones pay, a modest sum for a role that became a cultural cornerstone. Her death didn't shift history's course or ignite public upheaval. It was a quiet loss, felt most keenly by those who grew up with her voice. The animation world noted her passing with nostalgia, but the broader cultural spotlight had long moved on. Vander Pyle's death reveals humanity's wrestle with mortality and power, how even those who shape childhood memories can slip away unheralded. Her era valued the unseen labor of voice actors, yet struggled to sustain their recognition beyond their work. We immortalize her through art. Her voice endures in Flintstones reruns, streaming on platforms like Max and in spin-offs like Ayabba Dabba Doo. Her legacy lives in fan tributes and animation histories, not grand monuments, but in the laughter of generations who still hear Wilma's patient chiding of Fred. This quiet exit reflects our tendency to cherish the echoes of influence, preserving them in the everyday fabric of memory rather than the glare of eternal fame.